Picture the scene. It is 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're in a high-stakes boardroom, or maybe just, your kitchen during a massive family meltdown.
Right. The classic Tuesday afternoon disaster.
Yeah, exactly. Suddenly the news drops. A major client just pulled out. Or the basement is flooding. It is the big impact moment.
The chaos moment. Your cortisol just spikes immediately.
Right. And you look around the room and most people are reacting instantly. I mean, voices go up an octave, fingers start pointing, phones are coming out. People are literally physically moving to fix it.
Oh yeah, it's loud.
It is loud and it's fast, but then you spot that one person in the corner.
The one doing absolutely nothing.
They've gone completely silent, just sitting there. And if you don't know what you're looking at, you might think they've just frozen in total panic. You might think they're checking out, or that they just don't care about the disaster unfolding right in front of them.
Which is honestly the most common misconception we see with this specific profile. I mean, it looks like apathy, but it's actually something else entirely.
Today, we are going to completely flip that assumption on its head. Because according to the data we have today, that silence, it is not a glitch. It's actually a high-end operating system kicking into overdrive.
It's a feature. It is definitely not a bug.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating report from the Max Energy ME80 personality assessment system. We are looking specifically at a profile codenamed the WWSU.
Also known as the Stillness Rebooter.
The Stillness Rebooter. And this is a really distinctive archetype. If you know one, or if you are one, this is going to resonate so much. We are talking about a personality that functions essentially as a human pause button.
But, and that's the crucial part here, they aren't pausing to stop the movie. They are pausing to fix the projector before the film literally burns up.
I love that distinction. That's so good. Now, before we get into the mechanics of the WWSU, give us the 30-second primer on the Max Energy ME80 system. Because I know some listeners right now might be thinking, okay, is this just another introvert-extrovert test?
Oh, it's actually quite different from that. The Max Energy ME80 system focuses strictly on energy mechanics. So it doesn't just look at social behaviors or how outgoing you are. It looks at your internal wiring.
How you process underneath.
Exactly. How does your system process data? How do you handle emotional voltage? How do you make decisions when the pressure creates a massive spike? It's much less about who you are and a lot more about how your engine runs.
So it's literally the schematic for your internal motherboard.
Precisely. And for the Stillness Rebooter, the motherboard is built for a very specific purpose. The report opens with this manifesto that I think sets the tone perfectly. It says, pauses after impact, then quietly reboots systems back into order.
Pauses after impact, that implies they actually feel the hit, right? They aren't just immune to the stress.
Well, they absolutely feel it.
Yep.
In fact, they might feel the structural risk more acutely than anyone else in the room, but they are what we call a regulatory personality.
Meaning they regulate the environment.
Yes. Their biology is wired to handle sudden changes, not by fighting back immediately, but by absorbing the shock first.
The report uses a computer metaphor here that I found super helpful. It says, outwardly still, internally rapidly repositioning structure.
Think about when your laptop detects a critical error. What does it do? It doesn't let you keep typing your document. It doesn't let you open Spotify.
That just freezes.
It locks the screen. It goes black. It spins the fans up to 100%. To you, the user, it looks like the thing is completely dead. But inside, it's running a massive rapid diagnostic to prevent total data loss.
So while I am mashing the keyboard thinking my computer's broken, the computer is actually saving my life.
Exactly.
And that is the WWSU in a crisis. While everyone else is screaming and running around, they're running the diagnostic.
They're performing a cold reboot. Their whole philosophy, their global vision, or what the system calls their control mechanism, is stabilize first. They intuitively know that action without stability just creates more chaos.
Right, you can't build on quicksand.
Exactly. So they effectively shut down the external interface to divert all their power to the internal processor.
See, that is incredibly valid logic, but I can totally see how that drives other people crazy. I mean, if I am panic-stricken and I look at my partner and they are just staring blankly at a wall, I'm going to assume they've just left the building. But you're saying this is a deliberate strategy.
It's a strategy of inward convergence. Most people disperse energy outward when they are stressed. They vent, they cry, they take immediate action. The Stillness Rebooter directs all that energy inward.
They pull it in.
They do. They build a wall, or really more of a containment field, to hold the chaos so it doesn't spread to the rest of the system.
Okay, let's pop the hood on this engine. The ME80 system breaks this down into an energy matrix with 3 specific layers. You've got IP, IQ, and EQ. This is basically the how of the reboot. Walk us through that first layer, the IP or inner value layer.
So the IP layer is your radar. It's what you value and what you notice first in any given situation. For the WWSU, this is driven by risk perception activation.
That sounds like a fancy home security system.
Kind of is, just in a psychological sense. While an optimist might walk into a room and immediately see opportunity or fun, the stillness rebooter walks in and scans for instability.
They're looking for the cracks in the foundation.
Always. Their value system is triggered by things that are out of order. They are constantly scanning for the iceberg.
So they are the ones saying, hey, this plan looks great, but have you noticed the engine is literally on fire?
Yes. They value safety and order above almost anything else. When a situation hits, let's go back to that bad news in the meeting, their IP layer lights up red. Instability detected. That is step 1. They aren't being negative by doing this. They're being protective. They spot the threat before anyone else even knows it's in the room.
Okay, so the alarm goes off. Then we move to the processor, the IQ layer, or emotional activation layer. And the report calls this risk and consequence judgment.
This right here is why they go quiet. Once the threat is spotted, their brain instantly starts running complex simulations. They are calculating the fallout.
The domino effect.
Exactly. If we fire this person, then legal sues. If legal sues, the stock drops. If the stock drops, we lose the merger.
They are playing 4D chess with disaster scenarios in their head.
And they're doing it incredibly fast. But this requires bandwidth. They cannot talk to you and run these simulations at the exact same time, so they just stop talking.
That makes total sense. It's like when you're driving and you get lost, so you turn down the radio to see better. They are turning down the volume of the outside world so they can think.
That is a perfect analogy. And that leads us to the third and perhaps most critical layer for this specific type, the EQ, or decision calculation layer. Because usually we think of these highly analytical calculator types as being cold or unemotional.
Or like a robot.
But the report says their EQ is actually defined by emotional carrying capacity.
Carrying capacity, man, that sounds heavy.
It is the absolute engine of the WWSU. It is why they are so vital to families and executive teams. They have an immense capacity to hold weight.
Carrying capacity, it sounds like a bridge.
That's a great image. They are the bridge that simply doesn't buckle under pressure. When everyone else is freaking out and dumping all their fear and anger into the room, the stillness rebooter catches it.
They don't just deflect it.
No, they absorb the emotional voltage of the room. They don't reflect it back. They hold it, stabilize it, and neutralize it.
That sounds incredibly draining, though.
It requires immense internal strength. And this brings us to the manifestation layer, which is what we actually see on the outside. The report describes their energy manifestation as carrying, absorbing, integrating.
So they aren't ignoring the problem at all. They're basically swallowing it.
They take the chaos in, process it through that risk filter, cool it down, and then only then do they hand it back as a viable solution. They don't throw the hot potato back to someone else.
They catch it, hold it, let it cool down, and then place it gently on the table.
Basically, yes. They take the sting out of the crisis.
So they catch the grenade, pull the pin out, put the pin back in securely, and then say, here, this is safe now. Let's talk about that specific move. Because the report analyzes this deep inner trait as pause and reposition.
This is their signature move.
Yeah.
And it is a phrase I think everyone should just learn and memorize. Stabilize first, then proceed.
I need that on a t-shirt.
Right. When the crisis hits, there's always a lot of emotional noise. Fear, anger, panic, ego. The Stillness Rebooter has this unique ability to temporarily disconnect that emotional circuit.
They go full Spock.
Temporarily, yes. We call this the cold reposition. They filter out all the noise so they can see the structural problem clearly. The report says this actively prevents decision distortion.
Decision distortion. I am guessing that's the phenomenon where you send a frantic email at midnight that you deeply regret at 8 in the morning.
We have all been there. We react to the feeling of the problem, not the problem itself.
Yeah.
The WWSU waits until the feeling has completely passed so they can attack the actual problem with precision.
They don't just want to do something to feel better.
Exactly. They want to do the correct thing to actually fix the system.
And you knew there was but coming here, this superpower has a massive shadow blind spot. Every superhero has a kryptonite. And for the Stillness Rebooter, the report calls it expression delay.
This is the danger zone. And if you are a Stillness Rebooter, or you are married to one, You need to listen to this part very carefully. The report has a really stinging insight here. It says, prolonged silence lets misunderstanding self-generate growth.
Oof. Misunderstanding self-generates. That means while you are being silent, other people are just making up stories about why you're silent.
Exactly. You are sitting there doing this noble, heroic work of stabilizing the ship inside your head. You feel like you're saving everyone. But to your partner or your boss, you're just stony. You're absent.
They think you are ignoring them. Or worse, that you're judging them for panicking.
Or that you just simply don't care. The gap between your intense internal activity and your external silence is where relationships go to die. And the report warns about a very specific consequence of this, the explosion.
The explosion. I thought these were the calm, steady people.
They are, until they aren't. Remember that carrying capacity we talked about?
Right, the bridge?
Even a reinforced bridge has a structural weight limit. The WWSU holds and holds and holds. But if they don't annotate their emotions, if they don't vent a little bit of steam along the way, the pressure just builds up.
It's the classic pressure cooker effect.
And when it finally blows, it is not a tiny leak. It's a full-blown detonation. This is the person who has been the absolute rock for 3 years and suddenly quits their job on a Tuesday with zero notice.
Or they end a 10-year relationship over a dirty dish left in the sink.
Because it wasn't about the dish at all. It was about 3 years of absorbed, unprocessed chaos.
Wow. So what is the fix?
The lesson here for the Stillness Rebooter is you have to narrate your pause. You have to learn to just say out loud, I am not ignoring you. I am processing this. I need 20 minutes to reboot, and then I will be back online.
Just giving them that little interface message like, loading, 40% complete, please wait.
It changes everything. It reassures the people around you that you are still actively in the room, even if you are quiet.
Let's pivot to how this actually plays out in life, starting with social relationships, because if you can master that cold reposition and communicate it, you are incredibly valuable as a friend. The report calls their social role steady companionship.
They are natural noise reducers. We live in a world that's just constantly screaming for attention. Everyone wants to be heard. The WWSU is the person who absolutely does not need the microphone. They don't compete for the loudest voice in the room.
I actually have a friend exactly like this. When things go wrong, just sitting next to him physically lowers my blood pressure. He doesn't even have to say a word. It's like he absorbs the ambient anxiety.
That is the consoling presence. They ground the energy of the room simply by being there. But, and here's the flip side we have to consider, what do they need? Because they can't just be the emotional sponge for everyone else forever. That is not sustainable.
Right, the bridge will collapse. The report says they need deep understanding. What does that actually look like in practice?
They need low-maintenance, high-depth relationships. They do not need massive crowds or huge parties. They need partners and friends who can effortlessly read their silent care.
Silent care. I really like that phrasing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It means they need someone who knows that just because they aren't saying, I love you or I'm worried every 5 minutes, doesn't mean they aren't feeling it deeply. They need to be truly seen without having to constantly explain or verbalize themselves.
Because if they have to perform their emotions for you, they will just burn out.
Exactly. So if you are friends with the WWSU, appreciate the silence. Do not force them to fill it with chatter.
Sit in it with them. That is the greatest gift you can give them.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk business. Because I'm imagining a stillness rebooter in a high-hype, aggressive sales floor might be absolutely miserable. But in other roles, they would be the undisputed MVP. The report suggests their business value title is System Recovery Specialist.
I love that title so much. Their core business advantage is defined as rhythm governance. They are the ones you call in when the rhythm of the organization is completely broken.
So they are not the visionary startup founder hyping everyone up on stage with a confetti cannon?
Probably not. But they are the COO you desperately hire 6 months later when that startup is bleeding cash, the product is broken, and nobody knows who reports to whom anymore. They excel at post-chaos order reestablishment.
You're the fixer.
The structural fixer. They walk into the mess, sit down, and just start untangling the wires. They revise the broken processes. They recalibrate the priorities. They significantly lower the system risk for the entire company.
The report says they let the team maintain cooling amidst the noise of business.
Think about a high burnout environment. Having a stillness rebooter is like having an industrial radiator that keeps the corporate engine from overheating. They literally stop the panic from spreading to the rest of the staff.
So if we're looking at recommended career fields, the report gets very specific. If you are a WWSU or you are trying to hire one, what should you be looking for?
First and foremost is system governance. This includes operations efficiency, process redesign, organizational repair, basically anywhere systems are broken and need meticulous fixing.
Okay, fixing broken things. What else?
Risk management. Remember that IP layer we talked about earlier, the radar?
Spotting the leak before the pipe bursts.
Exactly. Compliance, financial risk prevention, post-crisis rebuilding. These are natural habitats for them because their brain is already doing this analytical work automatically all day long.
That makes perfect sense. Put the radar to work where it's needed most.
Also, project coordination.
Yeah.
But specifically, long-term complex projects. We're talking about the marathon, not the sprint. Large system maintenance where extreme patience and stability are required over months or even years. They do not get bored by stability. They thrive in it.
And finally, the report mentions stabilizer roles.
Yes, these are core guarantee roles. Jobs requiring extreme psychological resilience, air traffic control, emergency response logistics, high-level crisis management, roles where panic is simply not an option on the table.
It is really amazing to see doing nothing reframed as this incredibly active, powerful form of doing. It takes a lot more strength to hold a falling wall than to just run away from it.
It really challenges our modern definition of action. We tend to think action equals movement, noise equals productivity. But sometimes the most powerful, necessary action you can take is to stop the momentum of a crash.
To stand still so the spinning can finally stop.
The Stillness Rebooter is the anchor. If you cut the anchor, the ship just drifts into the rocks.
That is exactly it. And that leads us to the final thought today, the golden sentence from the report that I think wraps this up beautifully.
It really does.
Let's hear it.
The report concludes with this thought. When storms arrive, Stillness Rebooter quiets everything first. This necessary pause is precisely what lets systems restart sturdier and last longer.
The necessary pause, I feel like I need to print that out and tape it to my monitor. We could all use a little bit of that WWSU energy, regardless of our own personal type.
Absolutely. In a world that simply never stops moving, the ability to pause is a massive superpower.
Now, just a reminder to you listening, this deep dive was based on the WWSU profile from the Max Energy ME80 Personality Assessment System. It is a brilliant framework for understanding why we operate the way we do by looking at the energy under the hood.
If you found yourself nodding along today, or if you realized your quiet colleague isn't ignoring you, they're just rebooting, you really might want to dig deeper. You can check out the system at the official website, www.maxenergylife.com.
You can also find them on Facebook. Search for Max Energy OA or Metenergy Oshi. It is definitely worth a look if you want the actual manual for your own brain.
It is always better to know how a machine actually works than to just keep randomly mashing buttons.
Well said. That is all we have time for today. To all our stillness rebooters out there, take your time, reset the system, and do not let anyone rush your reboot. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Take care, everyone.